put your goals out into the open air and then the universe presents them to you. I'm not about that, right? I'm more practical than that. But then his name is John Asraf. He speaks about the law of Goya. I don't know if he made it up or someone else made it up, but it's the law of get off your ass. And that's what I think manifestation is. It's getting off your ass and being intentional. So don't just write these things down in your journal every morning. Don't just sit there and think about them. Get off your ass and go and do something about it.
Yeah.
It's not gonna come to you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Daniel Lees podcast. If this is your first time, welcome to the show. You've come to a good one because this is probably the best looking guest I've had in a very long time. So if you're on audio platforms, head over to YouTube and go and check out how good looking this week's guest is. But we're talking to a mindset specialist that helps elite leaders in the workplace get the best out of their mindset. But we're going to discover today how he managed to find this journey and follow his dreams and his passions, and what he does to help people get the best out of their own mindset. Talking about things like imposter syndrome, mental health, and how we can really live a productive lifestyle, how we're able to shift mindset changes, habits, and all that good stuff. So if you're into self-development and you're a go-getter and you want to learn about how to perform in the best possible state, make sure you listen to the end of this podcast because I promise you it's going to be worth it. So without further ado, let's welcome this week's guest, Harri Pereira.
Thank you very much. I mean, I don't know about the best I can guess. I've got the dodgy tash going on here, so it's not my usual look.
Are you doing November?
I am.
Yeah.
Although I did just pull my hamstring last week, so
did you?
We're gonna have to push it towards the end of the month. So let's see.
What are you planning to do then? A run or?
Yeah. So I mean, there's a few different things. I'm joining some other boys. They are doing 60 kilometers throughout the whole of the month. It's called the Menathon. You might have seen it on my Instagram.
Okay, I actually hadn't seen it, but...
Oh, okay. So it's 3 guys who've just organised it, 3 good friends of mine.
Wow.
And just 60 kilometres through the whole of the month, which for some people it's not a big deal. But then on the last day, I think it's the 26th of November, we're doing a 21 kilometre with a D-ball. For anyone who doesn't know what D-ball is.
Actually, I saw that on your... Are you doing it with Jack?
Yes.
Yeah.
So he's one of the guys who's organised it.
So I saw that because that was like, weren't you planning on doing something crazy like 20 kilometers with a ball on your back?
Yeah, so half marathon, you share the ball, 20 kilo D-ball throughout the whole way. So yeah, it'll be interesting. So I've got to make sure I recover. I can't do the turf games next week either, so that's a bit frustrating. But
wow,
yeah, I'm supporting anyway.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I didn't even know that. So this is something that I'll 100% be interested in joining you boys on.
Come join us.
Yeah, 100%. Jack's always telling me, he's like, come down for the run. The run. And, you know, I'm not even going to make an excuse. I haven't gone. But Harri, thanks for joining the show. For those that are obviously listening to this and it's new to you and who you are you and what actually is a mindset coach?
I call myself a mindset and performance coach, right? Because I used to be a PT, I used to be a health coach. And after graduating from uni with biomedical science, I was fully invested in the health industry, right? Getting people healthier, getting people fitter, empowering people to lose weight and control their health. As I started working with certain individuals, I got super interested in their behavior and actually why they weren't doing certain things that I was trying to get them to do. Like, I'm sure everyone can resonate with the fact that they want to stick to a certain habit. They want to reach a certain goal and they know what to do. They know why they're doing it. They know that they have to do it, maybe, but they're not doing it. They're finding that they're falling off track along the way. So I got more interested in that process, the bit in between the start point and the end point. Like, what are the behaviors? And I realized, and I did certain mentorships, which helped me develop that. I've invested a hell of a lot of money into more unconventional mentorships courses like NLP, behavior change qualifications, etc., rather than the typical coaching ICF courses. So I invested into that side of things, and I realized that a lot of your behavior comes from what happens up here, right? So how is that created? Because we've all got very different mindsets. And then I just started studying that stuff in my own time. I started reading all the books, like all the books that we see everywhere. So to go back full circle to your question, you could say that it is about giving you an alternative perspective, helping you become aware of the things you're not aware of, moving you from an unconscious state to a conscious state so that you can empower your own behavior change. And it's ultimately about helping people just become their best selves by creating a positive, more successful mindset. And a lot of that's an umbrella term for health, performance, success, career, relationships. All of these things fall underneath.
Yeah.
So with my background in health, with my knowledge of how to run a business and speaking to so many leaders, and my ability to, I guess, improve your lifestyle in general, I can call myself a mindset coach because I can help people in all these different facets of life, because it all permeates through each other.
Yeah.
It's not, what I find frustrating is that some people, yes, they are experts in one area, but that one area is so highly affected by this area. Your mindset, your mind and body, you know about the mind and body connection, like the gut and brain connection, right? They're so heavily connected. I don't think you can be just one expert.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's funny, isn't it? Because you look at a lot of the CEOs and stuff, and especially some of the people that I've worked with, their diets are horrific. They don't take care of their body, smoke heavily. Like they're just not optimal at all. So, and obviously a lot of the guys that you work with are CEOs, and I'm sure I saw one testimonial where the guy was like, even my sex life with my wife has improved, which is going to be a question I'll come to later on. Because I think every man listening is like, how can I improve my libido? But to become a mindset coach then, you talked about NLP and stuff like that, but what qualifications did you have to go through to kind of like classify yourself as an official mindset coach then?
Coaching's unregulated, right? So you could sit here now and be like, right, I'm going to be a mindset coach, which creates a lot of fluffy twats who don't really know what they're doing. Sorry about my language.
No, I love it, mate. Fucking carry on.
Okay. So it creates a lot of shit in the industry. And there are so many people out there talking absolute garbage just because they've read a few books.
Yeah.
And I'll let people decide for themselves whether they want to listen to what I say or not. And again, I do always say, whenever I speak to someone or whenever I'm on a podcast or whenever I'm doing a seminar or a talk, take it with a pinch of salt. Like I always say, I'm not right. I'm not right. But this is my perspective and this is my experience and this is what I've learned from here. Yeah. This is what happened when I worked with this individual who runs this business.
Take what you want from it.
Take what you want.
If you think this is valuable, keep that.
If this resonates with you, run with it and see what happens. So at the end of the day, there isn't anything that qualifies you as a mindset coach, which is unfortunate, but it is the way it is at the moment. And I hope it's going to change some days, but that is what it is.
It's funny you say about any old twat. I'm not going to call this person a twat, obviously. I don't necessarily get a lot of requests, but there was one person that requested to be on my podcast, and they're a relationship coach. But that person was also on a podcast that told the interviewer that the person that they're with has to earn over $1 million dirhams, otherwise they're not interested. And I was like, and you're coaching women to be in a relationship, but that's your overview? Like, wow. That's your bare minimum. They must be rough and rugged and big and muscly and into fitness and earn over $1 million. I'm like, what about somebody that's going to respect you, treat you like the person that you want to be treated like, listen to you, be there for you, be that shoulder to cry on, you know.
Like those things are like what you do, whereas what you're talking about there is like who you are. Like that's what people need to learn to buy into.
Yeah.
But that's the thing with coaches, right? Some people like he, she, I don't know. I think you said she. Yeah. Don't want to out her too much. In fact, I think she's just out.
Yeah, she's gonna listen to this and be like, "You fucking bastard." I'm sorry, but you put yourself out there.
I hope so.
Yeah.
But what I do have to try and do, and it is hard sometimes. Like if I'm coaching someone, A coach isn't a mentor. A mentor is like, you have business mentors, right? A mentor is someone who's been there and done it, got the t-shirt. So you are giving advice much more than you're trying to get the best out of them, right? A coach, which is what I am, is getting the best answers out of them. So I have to try and stay away from giving too much advice. So that's why you can coach people if you know how to coach. If you are really good at listening, if you are really good at giving other people space. I'm reading a book at the moment called Time to Think. And it's all about that, creating a thinking environment for people and clients. And it's so powerful because I always say, like, you've got your own answers. You just need guidance. You need accountability. You need to be challenged. You're avoiding certain things. So I'm going to help you stop avoiding that.
Yeah. I spoke about this a couple of times on the podcast. I went to Lake Como for like 9 days alone.
Nice.
Went to Milan for a few days and stuff like that. But it was great. Like you said, time to think. That was my time to think because I was alone with myself quite a lot. And don't get me wrong, I saw people there, and I was quite sociable with people and I met people. And but a lot of the time I was alone, and it was so refreshing because I came back with such a positive mindset of things I need to do, stuff that I potentially wasn't not enjoying, but like appreciating, let's say. And then really got time to be like, actually, do you know what? Like, I'm really happy for this, and this. And as you said, when you're just a million miles an hour, it doesn't allow you that time to think, but to be able to sit there and stop and think, it's quite enlightening. So let's take it back to the beginning then, because obviously there's a journey to how we got to today. So tell me about little Harry. How was he? What was he like growing up?
Little Harry. I had a big fat afro. That's what I
did. You?
I had a massive afro.
Where's
it was actually quite sick, you know. It was actually quite cool.
Where's the family kind of like tree lead to? Because obviously having it's Pereira, right? I said well. So, Pereira makes me feel maybe Portuguese roots.
Portuguese. Yeah, my dad's family is Portuguese.
Your dad's Portuguese as well?
Yeah. Okay. Well, he speaks like me and you, but he's Portuguese. My mum's English. English, Scottish, and all that stuff. So nice. Half Portuguese. That's where my family, my surname comes from.
Nice.
So,
do you like pastel de natas?
Of course. You've almost destroyed the name there though, but I'll let you.
What do I say? How does it?
Pastel de nata.
Pastel. Yeah,
a little bit of a shh.
My missus is Brazilian as well. She's gonna slap me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But incredible, and green wine as well. You can't find it anywhere apart from like.
Yeah. I mean, the chicken there is just, the Nando's is next level.
Yeah.
Next level.
So Portuguese roots, but how did you spend much time in Portugal growing up, or was it all just in the UK?
So, I mean, go there every year, still go there every year.
Which part?
Just outside Lisbon.
Okay.
So that's where my grandparents live at the moment.
Nice.
So yeah, I got all my Portuguese family, and it's funny, like when my dad speaks fluent Portuguese, I don't.
Do you?
Right?
No, okay.
No. So my mum, my dad, and my brother and I, we always used to go over there every single year. We'd be sat around our grandparents' table. There'd be like 30 Portuguese people, and then us, my mum, myself, and my brother, and they'd all be speaking Portuguese. It'd be up till about 12 at night, like just shouting across the table in Portuguese, and it's just like chaos. But like those sorts of memories are, I think they're such amazing memories to have, of like going to such a different culture.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you realize, but the way they talk when they have dinner, they shout at each other across the table, and it's like, it's just chaos, but I quite like it.
So you're like, do you guys like each other, or are you arguing? Or
yeah, we can never tell. Like, I'm actually quite good at picking up what they're talking about.
Yeah.
But you can never tell whether they're having a heated discussion or they're just talking normally.
Yeah.
It's quite funny.
I think that's one of the things I love about Dubai. And obviously, I mean, ever since I left, I never really dated English girls because I always was just fascinated by other cultures.
Yeah.
Like really just, when you think about English culture, like I actually look at like even cuisine. And apart from like a Sunday roast, it's like,
dull.
What is English food? Like, what's
Honestly,
English culture?
It's funny you say that. This year, since I've come out here again, I've completely changed. Like everything in my life has changed. But this specifically, I'm sorry to all the English girls listening to this, but unless you're top tier, I've gone off English girls, I'm afraid. So it's looking for the spicy.
It's just, do you know what it is? It's just like, I met my missus for the first time. We went for lunch, you know. I can't remember the last time I ever went on a date with an English girl and didn't leave blind drunk. Do you know what I mean? It's like, and it's just not really what. And then, and of course, obviously, we're not saying that about all English women, but
of course not.
It's just preference, right? Yeah. So growing up then, so close family relationship, good household.
Yeah, amazing. Like I had the best upbringing. Like I'm so privileged to have the upbringing that I had. My parents were together until obviously recently when my mum passed away. But like in terms of my upbringing, it was amazing. And I was actually quite an interesting child. I was quite a weird child, I think.
Really?
I was super shy, super shy, but I loved sports. So I wasn't an academic. I was just sport, socialize. That's all I wanted to do. But I was still very, very shy.
Yeah.
So, and that kind of like, I wouldn't, not haunted is the wrong word, but that's been like a thing for me growing up, that my confidence level, my just how shy I've been in certain like social situations. Like when I was younger, I think it was my first ever wedding that I went to, and my parents took me. This was when my brother wasn't born yet. He's a bit younger than me. But I think I went to this big hotel. There was hundreds of people there, and I ended up hiding underneath the table. My parents couldn't find me for hours because I just didn't want to see or speak to anyone.
Oh wow!
I was super shy.
What changed that then? Because you obviously, I mean, I saw on your Instagram and stuff, you did a talk for, I think it was PwC, right?
Yeah.
You know, speaking in front of a lot of people is not easy. I mean, speaking in front of 5 people is not easy, let alone a group of professionals where you're not even just talking about yourself. You're talking about, you know, intricate details of mindset and stuff. So again, putting yourself in a vulnerable place. So how did you manage to get to that space?
Public speaking has been my biggest fear for years. So it wasn't just the fact that I was shy and I didn't feel overly confident, but public speaking in general was just like, it was the most horrific thing. And it is for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But what happened for me was I did it at uni, and I think that's what scarred me, right? I had to do a presentation in front of 10 people about, I think it was pathology of disease. It was in my degree, right? So, and I knew what I was talking about. I'd researched all of this stuff so heavily. I knew exactly what I was going to say. I knew exactly what was on the PowerPoint presentation. And obviously it's bullet points and I wasn't going to read it word for word. So I knew what I was going to say, and it wasn't even that long. But we were all sat in this little room, and I think there was about 10 to 15 of us, and everyone's going up one by one. And then it gets to my turn. And as soon as I know it's about to get to my turn, or they say my name, my heart starts just fucking pounding. And like my body goes into this, I guess it's the fight, flight or freeze response, where it's for me, it's flight, right? I want to fuck off out of there. Like it's just like that horrible feeling of anxiety that you get in your body. And it was a real physiological, and it still is, right? And it's that physiological rather than thoughts.
Did you get that on your last talk then?
Yeah. So I'll tell you about it in a second. But I get up there, and because that's happening in my body, the thing is with my thoughts, right? And I'll talk, it's interesting about this because I've done a lot of research about this. But I was saying to myself, like, I'm prepared, I'm ready, I know what I'm talking about, I know the subject, I'm not scared of these people that I'm talking to. Why is this happening in my body? So it was conflicting, right? But anyway, I did the presentation back at uni and ended up just reading the words. So I fucked it up so bad, right? And to people sitting down, it doesn't look bad. But for me, I knew it was awful because I couldn't control what was happening, really. Fast forward however many years, that was almost 8 years ago, 9 years ago now. And that same feeling happens when I go into certain situations that I'm scared of, right? So it could be talking to a very attractive girl that I meet for the first time. But the weird thing is it's only like that first 30 seconds where I feel that level of nerves, right?
I know exactly, yeah.
You know exactly what I mean? I don't know whether this is just me or it's a normal thing.
I'm just sitting there listening, like, and it's just so, it resonates with me so much because even to this day, I get the same thing. Doesn't matter how many times I've spoken in front of 3,000 people, 5 people, 1 person, you name it. That feeling still comes. It's like this your heart is going to pound out your chest and you're sweating. Like, have you ever smelt your armpits after a spit? It's like, sometimes I don't even have to. I'm like, Jesus Christ, because your body is just like boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
But when I suppose what you were saying is the first 30 seconds, this is why I started to smile, is because once you get over it, it's such a rewarding feeling, isn't it? It's like the best feeling ever. It's like this like ultimate rush that nothing can come close to. And you just think, what was I even worrying about?
For sure. So it's interesting because
what does the research say then? Yeah.
Well, what I was going to go on to talk about is how affirmations, right? They don't really work. And the reason for that is because what I was saying to myself in that little presentation room at the age of 19 years old, I was saying to myself, like, I feel confident. I feel ready. I feel prepared. I'm ready to do this. I'm fine. I'm not going to die. Like, I was consciously thinking and believing those things, but unconsciously, on a deeper level, something was telling me that I wasn't going to do well in that scenario. I wasn't going to perform. I wasn't confident. So on a deeper level, I had those insecurities. So my conscious thinking and my unconscious thinking wasn't aligned. So when people talk about affirmations, you could sit there in the mirror and say to yourself, I'm confident. I believe in myself. I'm worthy. I'm all of this shit, right? But you're talking to yourself on a conscious level. So you're like, you come away from that thinking, yeah, I'm ready. I can do this. But nothing changes because you haven't changed yourself on an unconscious level. You haven't brought those unconscious feelings up to the surface to change them. So the point here is, I mean, a way you can do that is hypnotherapy. Another way you do that is through NLP strategies and tools, which is what I've learned a lot of, and I've done hypnotherapy as well. But that was like a little bit of a sidetrack anyway. So fast forward to the thing that you picked up on in terms of the PwC talk, and where I want to go or wanted to go with my business was to do more in-person, one-to-many seminars, workshops, talks, because that's my aspirations. Like I said, I'm not just one of those people who wants to be stuck behind a laptop being a digital nomad. Although you can be super successful as a coach doing that, and I've had amazing testimonials from doing that, and I've gotten great results from my clients. It's just not my bigger vision and ambition. So it's interesting how the thing that scares the shit out of you or me is the thing that I want and I know I need to do.
Yeah.
Talking to many people. So I knew that was something that I needed to overcome. So anyway, I spent the whole kind of year this year. I did my first one last year actually, to Lotus Cars in the UK. But I spent the whole year this year like writing down in my journal and really trying and on a mental level or like a conscious level, as well as a practical level, actually reaching out to people to get opportunities to speak to people. And I got my first one, which was PwC. And as soon as I got told that I'd got the opportunity, I was like, fuck, I don't want to do it. But I knew I had to do it. So I was like, okay, right. After that emotion kind of dipped a little bit, I was like, right, okay, now I've just got to prepare so much in order to do it and to do it well. And that process started, and I did loads of things leading up to that to get ready for that. And it was like, 50 people. It wasn't like a massive deal for a lot of people. But for me, I knew that if I could do that and if I could do it well, teaching them stuff and taking them through really engaging, impactful seminar around mindset, behavior change and performance and well-being, I know I can do this to 500 people, 5,000 people. I know I can do it at a certain point.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where I'm at now, I guess.
Nice. And you moved to Dubai a fair few years ago, and obviously had to go home. We'll come on to that a bit shortly. But what made you want to move to Dubai in the first place?
It's funny, right? 10 years ago, I think it was 10 years ago, 2013 it was. I've got a picture on my Instagram. My mum, my dad, my brother and I came on holiday to Dubai. We stayed at the Atlantis, And I'd never really heard about Dubai. I actually thought it was a country, which is what most people think it is, right?
Same.
So I came to this place and I'm like, wow, what the fuck is this? This is like luxury. I've never seen anything like it. We'd spent all of our holidays, our summers going to Portugal to see my family. Like we'd been to other places and I've been on loads of boys' holidays and all that stuff, but we'd never really been anywhere luxurious. And then we come to Dubai, where it's obviously the life of luxury, right? And we stayed in the Atlantis for a week, and my brother took a picture of me on the on the balcony of the Atlantis, and I put a cringy little caption up saying something along the lines of, I'd love to wake up to this every day, and Dubai is my favorite place or something. Anyway, fast forward 10 years, and that is actually now my exact view. I don't live in the Atlantis, by the way, but I live on the Palm, right? So, and that is my exact view. And I find that really weird. There's a certain little bit of manifestation that's happened over the last 10 years.
Yeah.
But when I came back from that holiday, I didn't think anything else of it. I was still at college, I think. Yeah, I was 17 or 18, still at college. And then I didn't think anything of it. I didn't think, I'm going to try and move to Dubai now. But then I went to uni, and then I did biomedical science, and I was looking up jobs after graduating. And I was like, I don't want to go and work in a lab. That's just not me. So I was like, I want to go into the health industry. So then I started looking at that sort of stuff. But then anyway, a job in Dubai as a teacher, a PE teacher, came up, and I was like, right, done. I'm going. So then I got went to the interview.
Had you done teaching before though?
No.
Wow.
Coaching. Only like kiddies coaching.
So then you came to Dubai, and what was it like at the beginning? Like how were you finding it?
I loved it. Like it was a great experience. Like I met some amazing people. Lived in a villa with 4 of my mates, and it was a very fun.
Did you know who they were before you met them here?
No, met them here. Yeah. So then
it's like being on a lad's holiday constantly, isn't it?
It was.
It's so good.
It was. I loved it. Like it was. They're some of the best memories I've ever had, and the boys will know who they are, and with those sorts of memories, right? So we had so much fun. But it was a bubble, right? At the time, it was a bubble, and that slowly, I'd say after the first year, that slowly started to diminish, because it was we kind of reached the peak of how much fun we could have in that villa and going out all the time. So
and then obviously talking about bubbles, that bubble popped in a pretty bad way when you get a phone call and say your mum's not too well. What's going through your mind at this moment? Like go back to that actual moment, and like how did it all come around? How did you find out? Like
so going back to the moment when I moved out to Dubai, I said I went for the interview, right? I went to the interview, and between going to the interview and being told that I'd got the job, between that period, my mum, they told me that my mum had cancer again.
So she'd had it before?
She'd had it before, just as I was going to uni. So it seems to be, there's a pattern, right? Just before I went to uni, which was in Cardiff in Wales, I live near London. So for anyone who doesn't know, that's like a two-hour drive, right? So I lived in Cardiff. Just before I was going to uni, we got told that she had cancer, right? So I was then going to move away from home. So I had all this guilt around leaving my mum with my brother and my dad to basically care for her, going through that process. Anyway, she got over it very, very quickly and very well in the first time.
What type of cancer was it?
Ovarian. So the second time, apparently, I don't know if this is factual or not, but apparently if ovarian cancer comes back again, it's probably going to keep coming back. And there might be some people who say that's totally wrong, but that's what I've heard, right? So 5 years later, it came back again. And that was that period between going to the job interview and getting told that I had the job, right? So I said to my mum, when they told me that, I was like, right, I'm not going to Dubai if I get the job, because I need to stay here. I need to care for you. I need to just be here and whatever, right? And my mum and dad, being the amazing parents that they were like, no, you need to take this opportunity. We don't want to ever hold you down. So them being amazing parents, they basically said that we know how much you want to go. If you get this job, you're taking it. They said they'd be more disappointed if I didn't take that job. So that for me was like, okay,
Yeah.
I understand their point. Like, I still felt guilty, especially because of the first time. But I was like, okay, I understand. Like, I'm going to take the opportunity. So then, anyway, good news was that a few months later, she went through the chemo again, radiotherapy, and she got over it. And then fast forward another 4 years. Sorry, 2 years.
So you'd been in Dubai for a couple of years.
So I've been in Dubai for 2 years exactly. And then it was January 2020, and we went into lockdown in March, on my birthday. We went into lockdown. So I'd also just quit teaching in January and gone full time into PTing, fitness and health coaching. So I'd fully shot myself in the foot. Right, I could have had a full salary whilst building my online fitness business. Anyway, fast forward to May that year, and I got the phone call from my dad whilst we were in lockdown. It was a pretty shit period. I was trying to build my business. It was really not working. Like, I didn't know how to sell anything. So I got a call from my mum and dad, and they said that my mum's cancer had come back. And just the way that it was said, or something said to me at that point, this is the last time she's going to have it, and it's not in a good way. I was like, I need to go home. So I was like, I had a girlfriend at the time. I was like, right, I'm going home. I'm going home in the summer, so 2 months. I booked my flight for 2 months' time, went home.
Wow. How did that go with that person you was dating at the time?
She came with me in the end. Then we broke up because I was in a weird place.
Yeah.
I was in a really weird place. Like, I was super motivated because I was like building my business, and I was like, right, this is the thing I want to do. I found my thing. And then I was super worried. I was in this place of like, I don't know whether to feel happy, excited. I don't know whether to just fuck it all off and just, I don't know, like, yeah, like that anxiety and that worry of what happens when my mum dies. I'd accepted it.
Had your mum? Has she accepted it as well, your mum?
I think she had. I don't think my dad ever did. There was something interesting happened, like for anyone who's like ever watched someone pass away, especially if it's someone who is super close to them. Like, my mum was the person who was the closest in the world to me. She knew me better than I know myself, I think. In the hospice, so fast forward another 10 months to January 2021.
So she'd gone for 10 months of battling.
Going through this, right? And it was like, when I got home, going back to the summer, when I got home, I was like, she's deteriorating. Like, I didn't expect her, she's a hairdresser. She had her own business, and she's like active, she's fit and whatnot. So she was healthy, even though she'd been through cancer so many times. But when I got home, I was like, shit, she's deteriorated big time. And that was a massive shock. So that sent me into a bit of a frenzy. But go forward to the January 2021, and I got what was the next worst phone call of my life, which was my dad saying to me that mum's gone into palliative care. For anyone who doesn't know what palliative care is, end of life treatment for people who are going to die in a matter of days or weeks or months. So that was like...
And you had that phone call when?
26th of January or 27th of January 2021.
Where were you at that moment? Like, where were you?
I was actually at my friend's house. I think I was walking out. No, I wasn't walking out. I was... Yeah, no, you know what? I remember it. I was with my friend James, and we were doing some videos for LinkedIn. And I think I got a message from my dad saying, I need to call you. And I knew as soon as I saw that message, I was like, something's up. So I said to James, right, I got to go. And then I just literally ran out the door, called my dad. And then he was like, yeah, you need to come home, basically. So I was living in London at that point, sorry. So then I got the next train home. I went to see my mum in the hospice. So that was like, I remember every detail of that day, that week, in fact. But where I was going with that story was, you asked if my mum accepted it. There, like, I was sat next to my mum's hospice bed, like holding her hand. She was very, like, in that last week, she was so out of it, like on morphine. Like the cancer was just slowly killing her. So she was really out of it. It was like not really even talking to your mum. It was like a different person.
Yeah, I had it with my nan. Yeah, it's like it's like, I don't think any words can describe it, because it's almost like it's not the person that you always knew, and it's so damaging, because you're just like, like, it just takes you back to that moment of just all those memories of I mean, as you can tell by the way I'm talking right now, it's very, like, it's just hard to explain.
I mean, words can't explain it, right? So I was holding her hand, and I used to just like talk to her and say stuff to her, but she said something like really under her breath, like as if like barely even moved her mouth. I'm not going to say what it is, because it's just something that's quite private to me, but she said something to me, and I was just like, okay, she's accepted it. And that for me was like a game-changing moment, because in a positive, like, it was the most emotional moment of my life, but it was like, okay, it was almost like she'd brought me up in a way that she trusted me now to do what I wanted to do.
How did you mentally cope with it afterwards? Because, I mean, I can imagine there's all sorts of emotions going on in your mind at the time. You know, you it's not just about yourself, but what your brother's going through, what your dad's going through. Like, how did that go?
Yeah, that's the interesting part about this, is like, you mentioned about my brother and my dad. So my brother actually jokes to me and calls me dad, because I'm very protective over him, and like, I'm like always trying to look after him and look out for him and teach him stuff and all that sort of stuff. So he jokes.
How old's your brother now?
He's 21, so he's not that much younger, right?
Yeah.
So and he went through it when he was 17. 18, sorry. 18.
Yeah.
He just turned 18. So my mum always, like, as it was getting closer to that date during Christmas before she passed away, she used to come into my room like crying and being like upset, because she knew it was going to happen, right? And none of us accepted it. None of us knew that she was gonna die, really. None of us like accepted it. But she used to come into my room and say, like, I trust you to look after your brother and Louis and Dad. So
that must have been so difficult to even hear.
Yeah. But she knows that I needed to hear that sort of thing to give me the strength, because I'm the more emotional one out of my brother and my dad. They're very much laid back, chilled, like kind of more lads, whereas I'm more sensitive, more emotional.
Yeah.
So she knew I needed to hear that. So yeah, like it was, I mean, arguably, like I'm still trying to work out how I do that, like how I look after my brother and my dad. I don't think you really know. I think that's something that happens over time.
It's like an instinct, right? It's like you either have it or you don't, really. It's just like you have that ability to take care or you know. And this is why you see, I was listening to a podcast the other day about somebody, and he was saying that, I can't remember what one it was, but he's a super successful guy, but they both had childhood trauma. He's a super successful guy, gone on to write books that have been bestsellers and stuff, but his brother is a heroin addict. And it just, not that I'm obviously comparing the same, what I'm saying is like, you know, trauma can either take and consume people, or it can be a motivator to go on and push for bigger things.
That's so true. It's so true. I always actually say this exact same thing. Like, there was don't know if you watched the Arnold Schwarzenegger documentary, how he's who he is, right? He's created success in everything you can do, right? Bodybuilding, fitness, politics, movies, films. and he's still got the drive to be more successful. Real estate as well. And then his brother was, I think he said he was depressed and he was an alcoholic, and then he died from a car crash, right? So, and they were brought up in a very strict household. And you can find examples exactly like that, where one brother or one person, sibling, is super motivated, super successful almost. And then the other one takes whatever they went through together in the opposite way. And that comes down to your mindset. You can go through the same experience as someone else. Me and you could go through the same experience, or me and my brother could go through the same experience, but take it in totally different ways. Now, arguably, we're going to have similar mindsets because of the way we're brought up, genetics, environments, etc. But still, there are always those nuanced differences that you process information in totally different ways. And to put a positive spin on this, you can change that. You can change, you've heard of the phrase rewiring your brain, right? Yeah. You can change the way your brain is rewired. What you can't change is the way it's processed, which is called something called your critical filter.
So what's the difference between the two?
Your critical filter is built. It's almost like the barrier between your conscious and unconscious. Yeah. So it's built and it's developed up to the age of 13. I might be wrong. Don't quote me on this. But this is what I learned in my hypnotherapy course, right? So your critical filter is it's almost like the barrier, the gateway, right? But underneath that's your unconscious mind. Yeah. So underneath that's where you're operating from. That's where your behaviors are coming from. 95% of your behaviors are coming from that place of unconscious operating. That is what you can change. That part of your mindset. Most of it. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that I mean, just wanted to put a positive spin on that. Yeah. Like, it's not just like you are the way you are. Yeah. To a certain point, you are the way you are, but you can change how you behave, you can change how you think, and you can change what you focus on.
Yeah. Well, it's like when you learn new things, right? You're sparking, I don't know what the technical term would be. It's like I watched a video the other day, and the guy was like, do little things like brush your teeth with your opposite hand, little things like that. And that's how you
started doing that, you know?
Exactly. So have I, yeah. Because he did a little bit more of a kind of like, he was like, tell yourself you love yourself 10 times in the mirror.
I know the video you're referring to as well.
And I thought, do you know, and again, this is part of my mindset, right? It's like, I've always looked at things and gone, if it works, great. If it doesn't, I've lost 5 minutes of my time doing something that, well, do you know what I mean? So I've always looked at that in life. Sometimes that's worked for me, sometimes it hasn't. But like reprogram the brain. But going back to obviously your mum, is there anything you wish you'd have done differently while she was here?
I mean, I could be cliche and say, I wish I'd have been more present during the time that she was here. Yeah. Maybe appreciated the times that we spent together. But that's such a easy mindset to have, an easy thing to say when you're on the other side of something tragic that's happened. Yeah. It has made me think that, yes, be more present in relationships, for sure. But ultimately, I don't think that's the biggest thing. I think what I do wish now is that I wish I spent more time. I guess that it's the same thing, being present, but I wish I spent more time, because the most difficult thing for me is that the last 8 years of her life, she got diagnosed with cancer now actually 10 years ago. For 8 years when she was alive, so it happened 2 years ago, for 8 years when she was alive, I spent 4 years at uni and 3 years in Dubai. So I saw her 3 times a year. Yeah. In 8 years.
It's a long time though, isn't it, at the end of the day? Because, you know, I mean, what do you do? Just sacrifice your life.
That's what I mean, yeah.
And you know, and like you say, it's like the cliche thing where, you know, I mean, if you could speak to your mum today, she would probably say, I would have wanted you to go off and do those things anyway, regardless. You know, I think that's again, I'm doing another podcast with a guy who had stage 4 prostate cancer, and he's created a platform for people to go and ask help on, because he's from the US. But one of the things he said was, when I was going through what I was going through, I didn't want to be a burden on my family. I felt like, you know, I was constant, like I was having to rely on them, and then their life was being sacrificed and stuff, which then affected me because I didn't know who to ask, where to turn, because you constantly feel like you're a burden on people when I didn't want to be. And I'm obviously not saying that that's the same situation. It's just that when they're going through certain circumstances, it's like, you know, so he's created a platform off the back of having cancer himself, going through what he went through, and then creating something where people can come together, and there's something where they can,
incredible.
Where they come.
I often talk about this, and it takes that decision to do that, right? To do something like changing the future. It just takes that decision. You have to have the awareness and the intentionality and the willingness to make that decision.
Yeah.
You asked me a question earlier, which I didn't really answer. It was about how like I coped with that mentally after going through that with my mum. The interesting thing is that in that January where I said I got that phone call, I was in the best place ever, because I'd just started my business online, and I'd just really shifted everything, and I'd got some really good results really early on, and I was super happy, and I was like, I'm really excited. And then that happened at the end of the month. Also, what I did at the start of that month was planned to do fitness challenges every month for the year of 2021. Yeah, 2021. And I'd said to my mum, like, these are the challenges I'm going to do. Which charity do you want me to do them for? And she told me the charity and etc. She also said, why can't you just do like a few 10-kilometer runs or something? Because these challenges were mental, and I did a few of them. But I didn't even get to the first one before she passed away. So I was going to do it on the last day of January. I got the call to say she was in palliative care on the 26th or 27th. So I postponed it. So then the whole purpose and the whole meaning behind doing those challenges totally changed.
Yeah.
And it was a whole different process, and it was a hell of a lot more emotional. So after that happened, I think I did, like the first one I did was 2,500 burpees, just straight, like with little rests, obviously. Like as quick
You
as
must
time.
have been in bits.
Honestly, I could barely lift my legs up. My hip flexors were in bits. Like, it was an amazing experience though. That was the first one I did. So then,
How long did it take?
I think it was like 5 hours, something like that. I went far too quick, far too early on. But yeah, it was amazing. I had everyone, all like people on my Instagram doing it with me live, doing like 100 here and there. And my friends in my friend's garden were doing it with me. So it was really, really cool. But where I was going with that is my mental health afterwards. I was arguably in the best and the worst places of my life during, let's say, 6 months after that. I was honestly like a high functioning depressive. I was so up and I was so down. I was so upside down, like constantly throughout that 6 months.
Yeah.
I was so motivated, but I was so upset and so sad. And I was just like, that was me grieving. I'd put in slots in my calendar to like think about my mum and like grieve, if you like, do certain things like that.
Yeah.
So, and people say like, I kept doing the challenges, and I made these hats that I sold, and I gave the money to charity, and I was talking to people online about it. Literally a week later, I was writing business plans whilst my mum was in palliative care for a clothing brand that I started and fucked off because it was just stupid. But like, I was just in such a weird place where I was so ambitious and so motivated. All that was going through my head was, okay, I've accepted this is going to happen. Now I'm going to make it the best thing that's ever happened to me. And that caused me to do lots and lots of things that ultimately I shouldn't have done. But that was just my way of grieving. Some people would be like, all right, I'm going to take time off work. I'm going to go on holiday. I'm going to either just keep working, try and just live as normal as possible. I went the other way and I was like, I'm going to do as much as I can to make her proud in her name.
Yeah.
So it was such an interesting period. And then I got a dog. I'm super impulsive. So then I decided that I wanted a dog. So I got him like 4 months later, or 5 months later.
Yeah. Is that the dog that you have with you today?
Yeah.
Nice.
But ultimately, I think that came out of a bit of filling a void for myself. Someone who, I don't know, I thought about it a lot, and I mean, I guess it would take a deeper process to understand why I wanted him at that time.
Yeah.
But it was super impulsive. Like I decided I wanted a dog. I've got family dogs. My parents had family dogs, but I never had my own dog.
So you got him in the UK?
Yeah.
Yeah, because, I mean, you say that though, but it's like, I mean, I bet it was the best thing you ever did, right?
It's the best thing, and it's the best thing I ever did. At the time, when he came to mind, when I first got him, I was riddled with COVID, and it was the World Cup in the UK, so it was a crazy time. It was so much fun. Like, we were going out all the time, but it was also COVID, right? So it was a bit of a weird scenario. And then when he got delivered to mine, I was riddled with COVID, and I had this crazy little puppy who was just pissing and shitting all over my flat. And like, it was such an odd time of my life. And I genuinely, at one point, I wanted to give him back because it was so difficult.
Yeah.
It was so difficult.
Yeah,
but now I wouldn't change it.
I know my cat Saffron, who surprisingly hasn't come through today. She first thing she did when she got to my house, pissed right in the middle of my bed. I got it cleaned. What'd she do? She pissed in the same place again the next day. I was like, oh my God. My other cat, Lucky, who I rescued, long story short, but when he got a bit older, he turned into a bit of a terror because we was in a 1-bedroom apartment. He knocked my Rolex off the side, smashed it on the front, cost me like $5,000 to get the glass replaced, chewed up 1,000 dirham note, and I was just like, and then, but ultimately, you know, I do love them. Has losing your mum had impact on relationships?
Intimate relationships.
Yeah.
I don't know. I went through a bit of a crazy period, to be fair. That year, we were going out a lot. I had no real relationships, very short-term relationships. That year and probably halfway through the next year as well. But I don't know. I think it's that whole process has made me so career driven, and I already was, but it's elevated that level of focus that I have for myself. Yeah. And to work on myself, to develop myself, and to develop my career, that it's taken my focus away from intimate relationships, like serious ones. And I've had a couple of semi-serious relationships since that. But
if you don't have the right partner by your side, it sometimes affects your business rather than...
there was one that heavily affected my focus on my business and myself. So that did kind of put me off. But
and you're still young, 28, you know. Exactly. I just thought, obviously, how much did losing a loved one play into the mindset of wanting to be with somebody? Because I suppose association is so painful with, oh, well, what if that I've got to go through that pain again, you know?
Yeah. I think I'm a little bit more aware than to let that sort of thing impact me in that way. Like, I'm quite a vulnerable person especially when it comes to relationships. I'm not that, I wouldn't say I have too much of a guard up. I quite easily will let people in if I feel like I want to, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with being hurt if I believe that this is something I want to pursue. I would, because I've always said, and there was a relationship that changed that. I've always said that if I don't go into this at 100% with 100% of my willingness to try and make it work, then that's the only regret I'll have.
Yeah.
If I don't go into it with that mindset. So I'm going to be vulnerable.
Yeah. So let's talk about Mindset X, your business. I saw in a video, kind of staying with the dating world. I saw in a video that like a lot of your kind of like testimony from your clients, like, he just understands me so well. So if you understand mindset, does that make you a great dater? You're great at dating? Just understand who somebody is straight away.
I think you should ask some of the girls that have dated that. Well, seeing as I'm single, probably not.
Yeah.
Right? I think it's a different.
Yeah, no, I understand. I'm only joking. But one thing I was really interested about, because obviously people are quite fascinating. Like, I think the whole human body in itself is incredible. But with humans and our mindset, is there like types of mindset and types of people, or is everybody really just individual? From your experience,
you have an is it the right word? Amalgamation.
Yeah,
I might be mixing two words up here. An amalgamation of different things that go into making you, right? So you can identify these as like a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. I'm sure you've heard of that, right? Yeah. So you have a fixed mindset in some areas of your life. You have a growth mindset in others, right? So that might be part of who you are. You also have different behavioral types. So you might have read the book Surrounded by Idiots, and that talks about blue, red, green, and yellow behavioral types. So you might have a few of those in your personality type And by the way, when I say like personality type and mindset, slightly different, right? Arguably, you don't really change your personality, but you can change your mindset. Yeah. You also have something called the Enneagram, which gives you 9 different points on a wheel, which describes the type of person you are as well. And there's things like the challenger, the pacemaker. There could be lots of these different things that go into making you and your personality and your mindset, right? Just differentiating between mindset and personality. Okay, mindset you can change, personality arguably you can't, right? So when you talk about mindsets and individuality, you have different things that come into it, and ultimately my job is to just understand the way you operate, the way that my client operates.
Yeah.
So when I understand that, I can then ask you the right questions to guide you towards the place that you need to change. I will never sit here and say, right, this is something that you need to change. This is not good about you. This is something that's holding you back. I will try to make you figure it out. Because if you figure it out, I'm talking to you as if you're my client, by the way. If you figure it out, then you're going to have the motivation to change it.
Yeah.
You're going to be more likely to change it.
Yeah. So I suppose that leads on quite nicely, because when you have clients then, to get to understand them, what are the type of questions that you would ask then to be able to really get into the mindset of how to guide them in the right direction?
You start off with asking them where they want to be, who they want to be, what they want to achieve.
Is there a common answer to that?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it, okay, there's 2 things, right? There's who they think they want to be, and then there's who they know they want to be that they're not articulating, they're not telling me, right? So there's 2 sides.
So it's like you get that surface level answer, but you know that that's not the deep rooted one.
There's something more. And that may come with actually more of the questions around, okay, so what's going on at the moment? Like, what's holding you back? What are you struggling with? That's more of where that comes into play, rather than when you talk about goals. Because the goals are more related to, I want to improve my leadership. I want to take the business to X revenue. I want to improve my relationship. I want to show up as a more present father, mother, partner. I want to lose X amount of kilos. Those types of goals, right? I'll go into them in much more depth with the client, because there's more to it. But when it comes to, okay, so what's holding you back at the moment? That's when it gets really interesting, because they think they that this is the problem, and actually this is the problem. But they, deep down, they know this, but they don't want to go there because it's the difficult route. I'm actually thinking of an example. There was a really interesting lady who I was talking to, and she's super ambitious, super motivated. And we were on a discovery session, which is the point where before they become a client. She says to me, we were discussing what's happening at the moment after we've spoken for about half an hour. And she says to me, so I think I just need to figure out my structure, my organization, my routines. And I sat there and I kind of paused for a minute, and I like let her process what she just said. And I said, it doesn't sound like that's what you want to do. It doesn't sound like, I said something like, it doesn't sound like that's what's the problem here. Because the way she said it, something in me, and I reacted quite quickly in terms of what I said. I didn't really think about it. But the way she said it sparked something in me to say that was bullshit. And I asked that question, and then a couple of seconds later, she started bawling her eyes out.
Wow.
And she then spoke about her father being controlling and how he has basically labeled her as someone who can't start her own business, can't do this. And he's basically pushed her down an avenue for the last 20 years that she doesn't want to be in. And she's just realized that. So that's the power of certain questions, and then giving them the space to be truthful.
Yeah.
So that's an example of how she thought, okay, so I could have at that point been like, okay, cool. How are we going to sort out your structure? How are we going to give you some better boundaries then? Let's put in some things in place. But instead of doing that, which is the very easy thing to do as a coach, which is what 99% of coaches do, at the end of the day, I took a chance, right? I knew that I kind of felt that was bullshit. So I went deeper. I asked a deeper question, and then we got to the root.
Yeah.
And then from that root, from that place, then we can build up and we put in the habits, put in the structure, put in the routines.
Yeah. So it was like, it's quite interesting you say that, because that was a decision led by emotion, yeah?
Purely.
And you speak a lot about how emotions drive in a positive and a negative way.
Yeah.
So let's talk about emotions and how they drive us then. So, because I mean, when I was doing some research on your stuff as well, like a lot of it resonated with me purely on the basis that there's been times where emotions has driven me for the right and for the wrong. And I feel like for a very long time, I second guessed my decision-making process because I was told to do it in a different way and I wasn't really following my natural instinct. So how can people leverage making great decision-making processes from their emotions in an effective way rather than a negative?
Ultimately, emotional decisions can lead to a very bad outcome, right? I'm not saying that you should be emotional. What I'm saying is that if you use emotion in the right way and if you channel it, it can be extremely powerful, and it can and it will take you a hell of a lot further than logic or practicality.
Yeah.
My best decisions, my most impulsive decisions have been from emotion, right? Coming out to Dubai for the second time has been the best decision, one of the best decisions. Getting Cobra, right? Getting my dog was one of the best decisions I've made in my life. A few others, right? It's changing my business from health and weight loss to what it is now, mindset focused. All of those decisions, very quick, very emotional. And I didn't really know why I was making them, but I really knew that it was the right thing.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, right? When you feel like you need to make that decision, if your instinct, which is that split second instinct, your gut, right? That's when people talk about the sixth sense. Yeah, you have a sixth sense for this stuff.
Yeah.
That's where that's the emotion kicking in. The sixth sense, the gut feeling is basically from experience. Your unconscious mind has picked up on information that's allowed you to have that gut instinct.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
Because again, as you said, the gut drives the mind, right? And
Yes.
you sometimes feel anxiousness in the stomach,
yes,
which is then,
it's that unconscious aspect, right? So when you feel like you're going to make that gut instinct, the important thing here is that, yes, okay, sometimes your gut instinct might be wrong, right? You might read it wrong, right? The important thing is to note that, okay, that's what my gut's telling me. Now let's try to think a little bit more logically, and then you make the decision. So I think that's the best way to make those sorts of decisions, which is to use both aspects.
Yeah.
What's my emotion telling me? Why is my emotion telling me that? Why is my gut instinct going that way? Because then you're adding logic onto emotion, and you're actually figuring it out from a different place.
Yeah.
Why people say that emotional decisions are bad is because, well, when information comes in through your visual, auditory, whatever, right? It goes through the emotional part of your brain first, the amygdala, and then it goes to your frontal cortex, which is where logical decisions are made. That's why people think that reacting comes from emotion.
Yeah, I was going to say that was quite a generic emotion kind of led question. But I think, the point I was getting at was, when you're angry, sad, okay, that's not a great place to be to make decisions. You should probably take some time. But like when my emotion, what I was referring to is like when instinct kicks in,
Yes.
you should lead with, okay, this is what my body, my core is telling me to do. I should be led by that.
And also when you add emotion to a goal, you'll be unstoppable.
Yeah.
My business changed because of the emotion behind what happened with my mum. I was in the best physical health that I could be. And I was like, why don't I feel the best I can feel? And part of that was because my mindset wasn't right. My mentality wasn't right. So there's a lot of emotion behind why I do what I do.
And you talk a lot about as well, powerful habits, having powerful habits in your life. Like what are the powerful habits that you're referring to?
Some of my powerful habits are firstly getting up early. Like that's a game changer for me. And I think for anyone who preaches against getting up early, like you hear now that these people trying to be controversial. I think Alex Hormozy, I respect him a lot. You know who Alex Hormozy is?
Yeah.
He's amazing. Like he's super successful, and I actually learn a lot from his stuff. But he put a post out the other day saying you don't need to get up at 5 a.m. to be successful. You don't need to do this. You don't need to do that. And I totally agree, you don't. But the way people take that message is that, okay, cool, I'm not going to get up at 5 a.m. now. I'm going to get up later. What it allows me to do, getting up at 5 a.m. every day, and actually sometimes a bit earlier, is have 2 hours to myself before anyone is even really up. No one's messaging me at 5 a.m. No one's going to call me. I don't have any calls. I don't have any meetings. No one's really out. I take my dog out early. I've got so much space and clarity at 5 a.m., between 5 and 6, 5 and 7, to do whatever I want to do and have that mental clarity. That has changed my life, and that will continue to change my life and my business. So that's one of the best habits that anyone who is not fulfilling their mental health desires, needs, right, who feels shitty on a daily basis, who's not healthy or overweight. If you're overweight and you're not waking up early, you need to take a bigger look in the mirror and just say, I need to actually make some sacrifices here. Because so many people are like, I'm not a morning person. Make yourself a morning person then. I go to bed at 9 p.m. so that I can get up at 5. I've conditioned myself to be that way. You can condition yourself. Sometimes I just write in my journal, today, I want to spot opportunities. I want to be someone who is open to opportunities or open to new conversations.
Yeah.
And what that does is like, I'll then go to a fitness class, and this has happened so many times. I've got so many opportunities by going to fitness classes, but not just going to the classes, but being intentional. And that intention starts at the start of my day. So I'll run you through a super quick process, right? Start of the day, write down something like, I want to be someone who spots opportunities throughout my day. So in my mind, I'm not walking around like opportunities. Unconsciously, I'm thinking opportunities. Yeah. So I go to this fitness class and I speak to someone new.
Yeah.
I then go down the first question I ask is like, what do you do for a living? Just naturally, because of my unconscious mind is programmed in a way to find opportunities. Opportunities for me is very career related. So I speak to someone, I ask them what they do. That is me trying to figure out if there's an opportunity here for us to work together or for us to do something. So you see how it traces back to how you program your mind in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But tell us about the law of Goya.
The law of Goya. I didn't make this up, by the way. So the law of there's the law of the law of attraction. Sorry.
Yeah.
Which is what people preach about, which is like you put your goals out into the open air and then the universe presents them to you. I'm not about that, right? I'm more practical than that. But then his name is John Asraf. He speaks about the law of Goya. I don't know if he made it up or someone else made it up, but it's the law of get off your ass. And that's what I think manifestation is. It's getting off your ass and being intentional. So don't just write these things down in your journal every morning. Don't just sit there and think about them. Get off your ass and go and do something about it.
Yeah.
It's not going to come to you.
Yeah. And what would you say so far, like some of your proudest moments are from going into your coaching?
Going into coaching, but when you said about proudest moments there, one specific memory came back just instantly, and it was actually graduating uni.
Yeah.
Because I didn't think I was going to graduate, and I did biomed, which is way out of my level of academia, right? I'm not an academic, but I guess it will be the speaking events that I've done this year, the seminars, the opportunities that I've got there, and actually the opportunities that I've got coming up. I've got lots and lots of different things coming into fruition at the moment.
Yeah.
And I put that down again, going back to what I was speaking about a minute ago, the manifestation aspect. I put a lot of those opportunities down to doing all of this work this year and not being settled with just being an online coach. So, I mean, taking one example, the PwC opportunity, that was one of my proudest moments. Not just getting the opportunity, but going and doing it and actually doing it. I think I did it really well and I got some good feedback. And overcoming that real deep fear that I had of standing on a stage speaking to people. That was like a massive moment for me to be like, yeah, I'm on my way to doing some big things here, and I know that for a fact.
Yeah. Well, Harry, thank you very much for coming down. Been a pleasure to chat with you. It's been a long time in the making. I'm glad we managed to get it done finally and obviously share some wisdom. So I do appreciate you coming here and obviously recording with us. And to those that are listening at home, watching on YouTube, Spotify, whatever it may be, thank you very much for tuning into another episode. I will ask one small favor. If you did enjoy that episode, just head over to whatever channel you're listening to on, whether it's Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and just give us a rating, because the more ratings we get, the better we can get and bigger guests, and also get this podcast into more people around the world. So far we've hit over 180 countries, which is mind-boggling, but that's because people like you have helped share the podcast with people. So yeah, thank you very much for another episode. Harry, thanks again, and we'll see you next time.